So today, the Albaz Strike Structure Deck is finally released. Feels like we've been waiting for this one for a while, doesn't it? But now it's finally out, and if we're to believe the average redditor, the time for Tier 0 Despia has come. But what's that? You just bought 3 of a structure deck, hoping for a cheap way to get a new deck, and don't want to wait for the reprints just to get an affordable Aluba? Well, fear not, because this is the video for you. I'll be showing you how to build a deck using only 3 copies of the Albaz Strike Structure Deck, trying to make it as powerful and consistent as possible, using only the cards included in this structure deck. You won't have to spend a single cent more if you already have 3 of the structure decks. You can actually make a pretty decent deck with just that, but if you enjoy the deck and feel like upgrading it a little, make sure you subscribe because tomorrow I'll show you how to massively improve it for under 50 euros. Anyway, enough of that. Here's the deck. Before I start going over the card by card deck profile, let me first explain what we're aiming to do with the deck. Basically, the absolute strongest card you have access to from the structure deck is Mirrorjade the Iceblade Dragon, as well as Branded Fusion, which allows you to make it. Mirrorjade not only gives you a powerful non-targeting banish of a monster as a quick effect, which is incredibly good removal, but also, if it gets removed from the field by your opponent, it destroys all of your opponent's monsters in the end phase, leaving them in a terrible position for your upcoming turn. Because this is so strong, your playstyle is basically trying to turbo that out as soon as possible, and then backing that up with as many hand traps and back row as you can. Fortunately enough, this deck came with some good hand traps, as well as enough tools to get to your fusion pretty much every single turn. Now, if there's any card included in the structure deck which isn't in this list, it's probably because it doesn't work too well without other cards. Fleur de Lys, for example, isn't very good without Ecclesia, and all of the dragon support won't amount to much without spheres. Again, stick around for tomorrow's video if you want to see the deck with those inclusions and more. Now, as for what is actually included, let's start with the 3 Fallen of Albaz. He's the core of the deck, as if that wasn't obvious enough from the structure deck's name, and as so many cards refer to him, we do really need all 3 copies in order to not run out of plays in later turns. Then there's the good new support cards, Spriggan's Kid and Tri-Brigade Mercuria. They both work well in this pure version of the deck, so you'll want both at 3. Kid is basically your budget replacement for Aluba, also filling the role of searching Branded Fusion, but you will need to put a card back from your deck to your hand to use her effect. If you already have Branded Fusion though, you can wait until you've already summoned a fusion monster, and then special summon her to search Branded Retribution for extra interruptions. Mercuria, on the other hand, is a great one to search during your turn, since it's basically another hand trap as long as you have an Albaz Fusion. It can negate a monster effect from anywhere, and like Effect Veiled, it requires them to be on the field, so it's pretty versatile. It even works if it's on the field as well, so if somehow you end up summoning it, it will still be an interruption. Make sure to try and get to this card during your plays. Finally, we run 1 Albion, since it can be a good dark monster to send with Branded Fusion, filling both the role of being an Albaz, as well as being a level 8 monster with 2500 attack, basically letting you make whichever fusion monster you want. It also has another effect which very occasionally will let you draw a card, so that's nice I guess. For some generic support, run 3 Keeper of Dragon Magic as an easy way to search Branded Fusion. It's usually your best normal summon, followed by Kit, and its downside doesn't really matter since you only have fusions in your extra deck anyway. Then run 3 Ghost Ogre and 3 Effect Veiler, since those are both pretty good hand traps that happen to come with the structure deck. Now for the spells, I'm pretty sure that by now, you've figured out that we'll be running 3 Branded Fusion. Other than that though, we'll also run 3 Branded in White as a secondary fusion spell. Thanks to the main deck Albion, having this and a Branded Fusion often lets you make Brigand the Glory Dragon, which will give your Mirrorjade targeting protection, which can also be pretty useful. Then we will actually be running 3 Branded Lost. It's basically a magical meltdown for your fusion effects, meaning that your opponent can't respond to them. That's nice to prevent your spells from being negated, but also it makes Albaz's actual Super Poly effect a lot more potent since you can just normal summon him while going second to fuse an opponent's monster away, without them being able to respond to it. That's already pretty nice, but it also has a second effect. When you do fusion summon something, you get to add Albaz, or something that mentions him, to your hand, so basically you can add Mercuria for that extra hand trap. It's a great card to have in your starting hand, hence running 3. Finally, run 3 Extravagance since your extra deck has a ton of room to allow for banishing most of it, and the 2 draws are very welcome to help with the discards. Now for your traps, run 3 Branded Retribution and 1 Branded Blade. Retribution is a pretty strong summon negate, ideal for using if your Mirrorjade has already banished something that turn but your opponent is still carrying on their combos. It's fine to get rid of your Mirrorjade, since you can just add a branded spell back to your hand next turn thanks to this card's graveyard effect, so you'll be able to make another Mirrorjade next turn anyway. It's also an okay discard since it does have that fairly good graveyard effect. Branded Blade also has a graveyard effect, but mostly it's here as a good way to finish your opponent off in later turns, and just as something else to search with Kit in case you have everything else you need already. Then we have 3 Back to the Front, which basically just lets you revive something as a quick effect. So why is that worth it at 3? Well, for the simple reason that, using this, you get to turn Albaz's Super Poly effect into a pseudo quick effect by summoning it on your opponent's turn, and then fusing something of theirs away. If you have Branded Lost on the field, they won't be able to stop Albaz's effect, which makes this even stronger. Make sure to leave an Albaz in the graveyard during your plays if you have this in your hand, since it's well worth shaping your combo around. Finally, just to round out the deck, run 2-dimensional Barrier, since it's just a powerful trap that can really mess with certain decks. The extra deck for pure structure deck builds is always pretty simple, just fill it with whatever you get. Here you run 3 of the good ones, and then 2 of the less good ones. For side deck options, you can run 3 Dark Ruler No More and a Call by the Grave, which can help you go second or just against certain matchups. So that's the deck, but it wouldn't be complete without a few combos showing off how it works. Let's take a look at some. So now it's time for some test hands, but first, if you've been enjoying the video so far, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. For this first hand, we'll start by normal summoning Keeper to discard Retribution in order to search Branded Fusion. We can then activate it to send an Albaz and an Albion to make a Rebellion. Rebellion will then discard the Albaz in our hand to fuse itself and an Albaz into a Mirrorjade. We can now banish the Retribution to add back Branded Fusion for our next turn. Since we made Rebellion, that gets us both a spare Albaz and an Albion in the graveyard, so we can now use Branded in White to make a Brigand, protecting Mirrorjade from targeted monster effects and being immune to battle destruction itself. Back that up with a Mercuria in your hand, giving you an extra hand trap to negate a monster effect. This time we have Back to the Front, so we'll play a bit differently. Activate Extravagance, banishing 6 to draw 2. We didn't banish all 3 Mirrorjades, so it's all good. Play Branded Lost, and then summon Kit to get Branded Fusion while putting back the second Back to the Front in your deck. We can now Fusion summon Rebellion using Albaz and Albion, which lets us search Mercuria thanks to Branded Lost. Rebellion discards Albaz to make a Mirrorjade, and you can even summon Albion by discarding the Branded Blade in your hand. Now, during your opponent's turn, you'll be able to summon Albaz back with Back to the Front in order to fuse away pretty much anything your opponent summons into one of your fusion monsters, and Branded Loss means they won't even be able to respond to it. So that's the deck. Will you be picking up 3 copies of it yourself? Tell me in the comments below, and while you're down there, don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out my upcoming video on how to upgrade this deck. Special thanks to my tier 2 patrons Jason Murrah and Violet Rain. The link to that is in the description. Thanks for watching!